This tutorial is designed to show you how we use the crop tool to remove unwanted portions of our images and how to quickly resize them into the proper dimensions for our class. In this tutorial, I also assume you have followed the steps to complete a crop tool preset. So if you haven't done that, please go back and create those presets. Otherwise, you may have trouble following along. To activate the crop tool, you can select it from the toolbar on the left side of your screen, or you can press the letter C to activate the crop tool. Once activated, you should see an outline of a box around your image. If you click once in the center of that image, it will bring up whatever overlay grid you have selected. To change that grid, go to the top of the tool menu option bar, click on the drop-down menu, and select Rule of Thirds. In the composition lecture, we'll learn the importance of the rule of thirds to photojournalism. But for now, just make sure you have the overlay selected. Once we activate the crop tool, before we start doing anything with the tool, we want to make sure we have the proper options selected. So I want to go up to the tool options bar, and I want to make sure that I have selected the proper preset for this photo. I created a preset for horizontal images called JMC 134 and the letter H. For vertical images, I created JMC 134 with a letter V. I want to double check in those options to make sure I did my preset right, that the first box says 10 inches. That the second box is blank, and that the number 200 is in the third box next to the pixels per square inch. Because this is a horizontal image, I want the long side of this image to be 10 inches. And the preset I've created is going to make it that size. Let's start by taking a look at the original dimensions of this image. It's located in the menu bar under Image and Image Size. There's also a keyboard shortcut, Option-Command-I on a Mac, or Alt-Control-I on a PC. My camera shoots images that are 24.5 inches on the long side and 16.3 inches on the top at 300 dpi. If you look at the lower left of your screen, you'll see a thing that says DOC with 103.4 megabytes. That is how large this file is currently when it's opened. I like to switch this setting to document dimensions. It allows me to quickly see what the size of my image is without having to use that keyboard shortcut or select it from the menu. We'll look at how to use the crop tool to just quickly resize our image if it doesn't need to be cropped. Once the crop tool is active, I can just double click anywhere in the image and it's going to crop that image to 10 inches on the long. I can also hit the return key on a Mac or the enter key on a PC. So now if I look back down on the bottom of the left side of my window, I can see that it says 10 inches by 6.6. That shows me that that image is 10 inches on the long, and I know that it's cropped to the right size. It also, depending on how big your original image was, will make it much smaller. To zoom in on the image, hold down the Command key and press the plus key a few times until it zooms back in to a good size for viewing. And use Control plus for a PC. Now we'll look at using the crop tool to actually remove some portions of the image that we don't want. In this particular image, there is a police officer that's out of focus and kind of in the way on the lower right-hand side of the image. Additionally, there's some dead space that's not doing anything for the image to the left of the officer that's taking a photo of the crashed vehicle on the left side of the image. Start by placing your cursor over the upper left side of the image. As I hover over that corner and the crop tool becomes active, you'll see that it switches to two diagonal arrows. That means I can now click that corner and use the crop tool. So I can crop some off of the top, I can come and crop some off of the side. The crop tool is currently unconstrained, meaning I can move this freely. If I move the crop tool and I don't like what I've done, I can press the escape key, and that'll take me back to the original image, having the crop tool around it. I'm going to show you how to do it constrained, and that's how we keep the original ratio of the image. If I hover over the corner and hold down the Shift key before I click, when I start to click and drag, you'll see it keeps the same ratio that the image was originally shot in. Since I want to take some off of the left and the right of this image, I'm going to crop from the center. So again, I'll go to the upper left, I'll hold down the Shift and the Option keys on a Mac, Alt-Shift on a PC, and then I click and drag, and you'll see the crop tool begins to come from all the edges equally. So now I can quickly crop out the cop on the lower right and that wasted space on the left. I also don't need above and below the officer that's actually taking the photo. Once I've done that, if I want to reposition where the actual crop is, I can click and drag the image until I get it right where I want. So I'm just going to move it like that, and now I can double click inside of the grid, or I can just press the enter key, and now my image is 10 inches on the long side by 6.6 inches on the tall. Once I have my image cropped, my final step is to save this image as a JPEG. To do that, I actually want to use the Save As command. Right now, this is still a camera RAW file, and if I hit save, it's going to save over the top of that RAW file, and I won't have the original version that came out of my camera. I'm going to go up to the menu bar and select File, and scroll down to Save As. Or I can use the keyboard shortcut that's denoted there on a Mac, which is Command-Shift and S, or Control-Shift-S on a PC. Selecting Save As or using the keyboard shortcuts will then open up the Save dialog box. If you're on a Mac and your box looks like this, you don't really see where this file is going to be saved. It does tell you that it's in the Crop Tool demo. What I want to do is click on this drop-down arrow, and that's going to show me the folder that this image is in. At the very beginning of this assignment, right after renaming your photos, I had you create a folder for the assignment. So that's what that folder is, and that's where I want to save this JPEG. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to select JPEG. And the last step, and this is very important, is I need to change the format to JPEG. The first time you use Photoshop, or sometimes after you haven't used it in a while, it will revert back to the default file format for Photoshop, which is a Photoshop document. If I click on this bar, I can drop down to JPEG. And now once I hit save, it's going to bring up a small dialog box. Set it to baseline standard, which is the top option, and you can actually drop this quality down to 8. That's plenty enough for this class. Right here, if you have the preview selected, you'll see this image is now 529.9 kilobytes. The original RAW file we were working on was 100 megabytes. So by saving this as a JPEG and cropping it down, we're saving a significant amount of space. When you're done, hit OK or press the return key, and now your JPEG image is saved. On a PC, your Save dialog box is going to look slightly different. First thing we want to do is click on the Browse Folder tab down at the bottom of the dialog box. This will open up our file navigator so we can actually see where our stuff is. The top of the screen shows the file path to our current folder. I want to click on my assignment folder, and I want to open up that JPEG folder. Now once I do that, I want to go down to the bottom, and I want to select JPEG from the file type. I don't want to save this as a Photoshop document. And then click Save. It'll bring up the same dialog box as in a Mac. Once that dialog box is closed, if I look up at the top of the document window where I have my document tabs open, I can see that the image is now saved as a JPEG. If I look at the other ones, I can see that they say .nef, which means they're still RAW. After I've saved this as a JPEG, I want to close it and continue to crop and save my other images. There's a little X that I can click to close this window, or I can use Command-W on a Mac or Control-W on a PC. Once the window is closed, I can move on to the next image, crop, and save until I'm done.